Okay, this is a very important video.
Yes, it is.
What we're going to do here is some stuff that's going to keep us from reinventing the wheel.
Right.
Some stuff that's just smart, if you will. Basically, there's some files that have been included with the SDK.
Right.
Some that include things we have to do no matter what with an importer.
Right. Things like loading the scene, preparing the SDK manager, and so on. That just has to be done no matter what.
No matter what. That's the key thing here. So if we were to start coding from scratch, we're going to have to code exactly what they've already provided.
Exactly.
So it only makes sense that we use what has been provided and then we build on from that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and go to the FBX SDK folder here. Go into examples, and you notice we have a common folder here. And inside of these two files, there are a lot of interesting little functions that we can use. So let me just copy this, and I'll open them up and show you exactly what's inside in a minute.
Okay.
So common.h and common.cxx. Let me come back over into here, and inside of their view scene, there's a getPosition.cxx and getPosition.h. And inside of these, there are some functions that allow us to get the global position of bones and various attributes, and that's really important. And if I was to code this from scratch, I would have to do that anyway. Right. So let me go ahead and copy this, come back over to here, and paste this in here as well.
So the bottom line is you're saving, what, a half a day of coding?
Exactly. And debugging and all that extra stuff.
Precisely, just to produce the exact same thing.
And since they're coding it and it's from them, we can be pretty much sure that they're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
So in the header files, let's go ahead and add an existing item. And we're going to add getPosition.h and common.h. And under source files, we're going to add in getPosition.cxx and common.cxx. So let me go ahead and open the header files for both of these. We'll start with the common.h. I'll just kind of walk you through the different things that we have here. Destroy SDK objects. This is really simple. All we're doing is deleting the SDK manager. And basically, we need an SDK manager. So this is something that's, well, kind of important to do, is destroy it once you're done with it. Initialize SDK objects. Saving the scene, loading the scene. In this case, we're only going to need to load the scene, but it's saving scene is there as well if we needed it. Which
is nice if you guys want to add this ability later.
Right. Get file format, which is used to just differentiate the kind of file that we're trying to load. And get position, as I mentioned before, we just get global position, get the local position at a certain point in time, at a certain pose, etc., etc.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, again, this saves a significant amount of time because we would have to code the exact same thing.
Right.
I mean, we could end up with slightly different function names and variable names, but
otherwise the
functionality is exactly the same. So this only makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and compile this really quick just to make sure everything is working, and I'll go ahead and include both of them. Just kind of to make sure that all the information we need is there and there's nothing we need to tweak or modify. Cannot open include file common.h. Alright, inside of here, because common.h is right inside here, we're just going to delete that out. Again, because it's looking in our own directory instead of going back. Remember, in the alias directory here, inside a particular one, it's in a separate folder called common.h. Now it's in the same folder, so we can just simply take out that /common/common.h.
Right.
So it compiles just fine. Again, as I said, initialize SDK object is simply going to create the SDK manager, which is, of course, something we need. If that didn't work, it'll print out a message. We'll create a new scene that we can start holding everything in. Destroying SDK object is kind of easy. Simply delete p SDK manager. Done. Saving the scene, again, we're not going to be using this, so we're just going to kind of skim over this. Loading the scene.
In our particular case, saving the scene wouldn't really be that useful anyway, since we're taking in the data and massaging it into our own format.
We're just importing.
That's right.
If you wanted to import, modify, and then save back out, then this would become useful.
It could then be taken into, again, Motion Builder, 3ds Max, Maya, whatever. Right. Then, yeah, it could be valuable.
And then at this point, what we need to do is load the actual scene. So we're passing in the SDK manager, the scene, and the file name. So we're actually going to create an FBX importer, which is going to load that particular FBX file. And let's see. It also takes into account passwords, because an FBX file can have a password, so this can make sure the password gets entered properly. So just kind of skimming over this, just really basic information here. And it also prints out some information regarding the number of takes in the file, and this just prints it out to the console if you had the console enabled. Kind of just going down here, get file format, as I mentioned. This just looks at the ending extension and checks whether or not it's an OBJ file, 3DS file, or whatever. And that's all there is inside of here. And as I said, get position just gets the global or local position of a particular node.
Right. Pull that file up real quick. I just want them to see what all we would have to do. Right,
sure. First off, there's quite a bit of code here.
Exactly.
I mean, despite it's kind of a simple operation, there's still a lot to do here.
Exactly.
The local position, all this is going to do is first get the node, and because we're dealing with time here, in other words, the current node is animated in one way or another, we need to get the current node, get its translation in X, which is going to return a curve, an animation curve, and then we need to evaluate that at the particular time. And then we need to store this in the local vector that we created. And then we're setting up a matrix. So we're kind of piecing together a matrix from scratch. We're setting its translation first, after evaluating everything, setting its rotation, setting its scale, and then finally returning the matrix that we've pieced together.
Cool.
So this is just for the local position. For global position, kind of different here. We have to get each of our parents and multiply and add those transformations together. As we talked about way back in the transformations lesson, matrix transformations add on to each other.
Right.
And since if you have a hierarchical relationship where you have some object parented to another object, parented to another object, you need to start at the base and kind of move your way back up.
Right.
So, of course, in this case, this is a recursive function. So what this does is if it has a parent, it's going to get the global position of its parent and add that onto the local position of the current joint. And it's going to call itself over and over again until there are no more parents.
Right.
So, again, this is something that we would have had to do anyway. And then we can get the global position if there is a pose already in existence. So then we have to take the fact that there's a pose, which in this case we won't really need to be using. We'll be calling this function, but poses aren't really an issue for us.
Right.
And get pose matrix, which is going to be used by this function right here.
Cool. Okay. Well, again, this just prevents us from reinventing the wheel.
Yep.
Smart programming.
Yeah, no kidding.
But now, unfortunately, we need to move into
actual coding.
Lots of coding ourselves. And with that, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. I guess in the next one, we'll go ahead and start on the FBX Loader itself.
Yep.
Awesome.